All right. Good morning, everybody. We've had so many meetings on the budget today. This is the second one this morning in this room. Or it's not even morning anymore, is it? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It still is. Yes, it is. Anyway, thank you all very much for being here. I want to thank, and you'll hear from some of them shortly, hear from all of them actually shortly. I want to thank Chairman Mendelson for being here, Council members Che, Alexander, Bonds, Grasso, and Councilmember McDuffie. Thank you all very much for joining us today. We just finished a briefing session with the council. As always, the council had some very vigorous questions and issues, and we'll look forward to continuing to work on that over the next 56 days. I want to thank also, Dr. Gandhi, who is our Chief Financial Officer. As you know, Dr. Gandhi is retiring sometime in the next months. He will be with us for a while, but he's been a real stalwart, and I want to thank him, and I want to thank his staff. We got his chief of staff, we got the budget director for the OCFO, Angel Jacobs and Gordon McDonald, who are with us as well. Thank you all for being troopers and working so closely with us, Angel, and please convey my appreciation to Dr. Gandhi as well, who I know could not be here with us today. I also want to thank our troops. We got a group of people that worked very hard. We got our budget director, who I don't think has been asleep for the last 7 days, Eric Goulet, who really has done a fabulous job. Our city administrator, Alan Liu, our chief of staff, Chris Murphy, our deputy mayors, and everybody, all of whom have worked so hard to be able to get us to today. I know that the media covered the briefing earlier, and so I know that you have. I'm not going to do the entire presentation again because I just don't want to do it again. No, we've talked a lot about this, and the council members will talk about some of that as well. Over the last 2 years, we've had some difficult decisions that we've had to deal with, working to strengthen the fiscal rigor, if you will, of the city. And frankly, it feels good to have a budget where we can't do everything that we would like to do. That's never possible. But, boy, we can sure do a lot more this year than we've been able to do in the past. And I'm really excited about it, especially somebody whose background is in the human services arena. We're making significant investments in a number of areas. We'll, of course, talk about those over the next 56 days. But one of the most significant is an investment we are proposing to make in affordable housing. And that is in a variety of ways. We're proposing to invest $100 million in affordable housing with 2013 and 2014 dollars. $87 million will go into the Housing Production Trust Fund. $67 million will be from 2013 dollars, and $20 million will be from 2014 dollars. We are proposing to put an additional $13 million in a variety of ways, like emergency housing services that will prevent homelessness in the first place, creating an IT capacity that we don't have now. And for those who are here and hearing this for the first time, we'll be happy to share with you the entire deck that we presented this morning. But in the interest of time, we'll truncate this somewhat. But for those who want it, like you and others, we'll be happy to do that and give it to you. We also are proposing now, the last 2 years, we suspended the dedication of the 15%, the deed recordation and transfer taxes being dedicated to the Housing Production Trust Fund. That is being recommitted to in this budget and going forward, not just for fiscal year 14, but for the ensuing years thereafter. The budget, as you will see, is framed around our one city action plan, and that improving the quality of life are some of the things I just touched on. Educating and preparing the workforce is the second important goal of the three in there. So we are proposing to increase the public education commitment by $79 million. That will be as a result of a 2% increase, as well as enrollment increases that we anticipate in our charters, as well as the D.C. public schools. We are proposing to increase the charters now with local funds, the additional $7 million to get the facilities allocation up from $2,800 per student in local funds to $3,000 in local funds. There's a lot of modernization money, $162 million that will be involved in completing Ballou High School, building a new Ellington High School, a modernization of Roosevelt High School, and planning for those who are under the impression that Spingarn High School was going to close. It is not. It's going to be modernized and will be converted into a career and technical education high school that we think will start to bring back those kinds of services after a hiatus, of almost 20 years in the city. We will invest over 6 years in modernizing all of our middle schools, and we will be constructing a new Brookland school as well as a new Shaw school that has been long delayed. And we will have an outlay over 6 years of $920 million for elementary school modernization, with $128 million being spent of that $920 in fiscal year 14. Growing and diversifying the district's economy, there'll be a $40 million investment, renewing that in the Skyland Shopping Center, Skyland Town Center, $18 million investment in relocating D.C. water facilities so that we can move forward with the development of the yards, which is a rapidly growing area on the Capitol Riverfront. $13 million investment in beginning the environmental assessment and infrastructure investment in Poplar Point. A $622 million, this is a huge investment for us. Our South Capitol Street Bridge, the Frederick Douglass Bridge, is really on its last leg. I've had meetings with the Secretary of Transportation, and they agree. So we are proposing to invest in this budget $622 million to begin the construction of a new South Capitol Street Bridge. The federal government will invest with us initially through Garvey bonds that will securitize future federal investments that will help us build this new bridge, which will be an important, really an important infrastructure investment for the city. And then $32.4 million for great streets, including investments in infrastructure as well as streetscapes. We are proposing to fully fund 4,000 MPD officers, sworn officers. We have almost 100 yet to go to get there. We are investing over 3 years in additional apparatus for MPD and FMES, $7.2 million in MPD, which will be about $21 to $22 million over the 3 years, and $8 million, $24 million for FMES. And in both instances, after 3 years, we will be fully refreshed our apparatus for the our public safety areas. We are, by the way, replacing a lot of federal funds in this budget, about, I don't know, $35 to $40 million, Eric. And one of those areas is in TANF, $27.9 million. That will allow us to make sure that we don't backslide. Many of you know that we made a commitment to make sure that we delayed these sanctions, and we're not going back that way. We've got $6 million in the budget to make sure we delay for a year the commitments that we've made. We should have all the assessments completed by the end of this year, and we can really constructively move people, hopefully, to a better place in life. We're making a $400 million investment over 6 years in the streetcar program. That will finish the first line. It will, I think, take us out to Minnesota Avenue and then help us build a line from Minnesota Avenue over to Georgetown, and we'll be off and running on our streetcar line. $16 million being invested in the district's bicycle infrastructure. We will add 10 new bike share stations. We'll finish the 54 this year that we are committed to. And we're going to add new bike lanes also. We're committed to get to 100 miles of bike lanes. We're at 56 now, and this will help us move further, more closely to that. We are making substantial investments in our parks and recreation facilities. We built 32 new playgrounds, or we made a commitment last August to do that. All the plans are done, and they will all 32 playgrounds will be finished by the summer, by the end of the summer, which will be a great addition for our kids. We are investing in a new tennis and learning center in Southeast. We're investing along with the Friends of Fort DuPont in building a new ice arena in Fort DuPont, and a number of other areas. Now, one of the things I'm especially excited about is the investment in our libraries. We got 3 libraries that we are investing in, but in particular, we are investing $103 million in the modernization of the Martin Luther King Jr. Library. That will take place over a 2 or 3 year period. We will get it started as soon as we can. And we're also providing money to be able to extend the hours of libraries. We're providing $8 million to be able to extend the hours of libraries, and we are obviously excited about that. We are establishing a $15 million, or proposing to establish a $15 million One City Fund, which will be available for nonprofits to apply for grants up to $100,000. We are proposing to externalize it. It would not be managed by the government. It would be managed by the community foundation, and the proposal process would be managed by them. The application process and the evaluation and management process all would be handled by the community foundation. And we think, and I guess it was Councilmember Alexander who raised the question earlier today, whether there would be nonprofits who would be left out in terms of opportunity. The answer is no. You still have got to qualify. It's a competitive process, but there should be an umbrella under which everybody can stand. We've already factored in the effects of sequestration on the revenue side. We think we could be light by $50 million. That's been factored into the revenue estimates that we've gotten from the CFO. We also are eliminating a couple of taxes. We are proposing to eliminate the out-of-state municipal bonds tax, as well as the LATO, the land acquisition for housing development opportunities, which we know has been a double tax on some people who could ill afford to be able to do that. And I know, Jim, you're happy about that one. So we are proposing to eliminate that in this budget. Now, I'd like to invite up the chairman of the Council of the District of Columbia, a man who actually I worked with on the council my entire time there. I sat next to him. In fact, I sat between you and Mr. Graham, didn't I?
Everything you learned, you learned from me.
That's absolutely right. Do y'all believe that? Anyway, please join me in welcoming the chairman of the council, Phil Mendelson.
Thank you, Mayor Gregg, and good morning. I'm going to be fairly brief. This is the mayor's budget. The mayor proposes a budget, and it comes to the council now for 56 days. That's what's set forth in the Home Rule Act. The council is scheduled to vote on the mayor's proposed budget on May 22nd, which is the 56th day, so we don't have any wiggle room there. The important thing here is that the council provides the opportunity now for the public to weigh in on the mayor's proposals. And I think generally the mayor's proposal is being well received by council members. We just had a meeting for about an hour and a half, and there were some questions. There were a few points of disagreement. But generally, I would say that council members are receptive to the budget as the mayor's proposed it. But that does not mean that there will not be some discussion, and that the council members will listen to what the input is that we receive from members of the public. And I expect that there probably will be some changes made. And that's not in any way to be seen as anything negative with what the mayor's proposing, but it's part of, I think, a good, robust process for developing a budget for the next fiscal year. What will happen this year, as every year, is that each committee will be asked and has, in fact, scheduled hearings, multiple hearings, on the proposals with regard to the agencies under the jurisdiction of those committees. The work of the committees will be done early in May. The markups have been scheduled. I couldn't tell you at the moment what those are, those dates, but they've been scheduled. The council members will then talk for about a week before a final proposal is put together that pulls together the recommendations from the different committees for our consideration on May 22nd. I do want to say that I think it's important to the process, whether it's the budget or any aspect of the legislative process, that the legislature work cooperatively with the mayor and vice versa. And the mayor has met with council members individually. As I said, met this morning for about an hour and a half. And I think this cooperative tone is important to our developing a final budget that really reflects not only what's best for the government, but also what is what we hear from members of the public as we go forward. So I'm not going to stay for much more of this briefing because there's a hearing and a lot of other stuff going on. I do want to acknowledge that Councilmember Graham is here, Councilmember Grasso, Councilmember Che, Councilmember Alexander, Councilmember Bonds. I don't think I'm missing anybody. Councilmember McDuffie was here, but he's, I think, chairing a hearing that began at 11, and Councilmember Wells is also chairing a hearing right now. So I thank my colleagues for their presence. Thank you, Mayor Gray. And I look forward to the next 56 days. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. I want to invite the council members up to speak who are here. Councilmember Jack Evans could not be here. He's away, and I talked to him on the phone yesterday, and I can tell you he wants to be here. It may be the first time in 20 years that Jack has missed one of these, but he actually took the time to develop a statement, and when we get to that point, I'm going to read his statement on his behalf because he wanted to share that with everybody here. So maybe I'll just go down the row. We'll start with you, Councilmember Che. Come on up.
Good afternoon, I think, everybody. As the mayor indicated, we had a meeting earlier, a briefing, and I think it was, if not entirely uniform, certainly widespread among those who commented upon the budget, among the council, that we are very pleased with what's been put in this budget. I think the budget is very thoughtful. I think that it is balanced, and not in the way that it has to be balanced, revenues and expenditures, but balanced in terms of its overall look at the needs of the district and responding to those needs. Now, necessarily, being a ward council member, I was keen to see what was provided for the needs of my ward. I also have many areas, throughout the district that I'm concerned about, but just for the ward purposes, I was very pleased to see that there is robust funding for very important capital needs in my ward. Hearst and Mann elementary schools are schools that serve students across the district. They have been in desperate need of modernization. They are high performing, but they are woeful in their capital needs. And for example, Hearst is the only school I know of that has no public space within the school itself. Half the students are in trailers. There's no cafeteria. There's no auditorium. There's no general room. There is absolutely nothing there, and yet these students still perform well. But in addition to that, there are items in the budget to provide additional classrooms to Janney, which was just modernized and was overcrowded as soon as its doors opened, to have renovations of the Rose Reno School, the Lafayette School, Murch Elementary School, Oyster Adams, and Eaton Elementary School. Some of these are a little bit further out in the budget. But in addition, I'm very, very pleased, again, throughout the district, but again, it affects Ward 3, that the mayor has put in a lot of money to increase the hours of our libraries. I think the libraries need to be open to our residents, and particularly our students, at the time when they most need them, after school and on weekends, and so there's money for that. There's also money, happily, for 2 libraries in Ward 3, namely the Palisades and Tenley Library. There's money for recreation centers, and there are other vital infrastructure needs that are being provided for. This is being done throughout the district, but I wanted to focus on my ward, and I want to make a statement about that. These are investments. We cannot allow our public facilities to degrade and to not serve their purposes, and that's what this budget is about. This budget is about keeping us going forward economically. It's about providing for infrastructure needs, but it's also at the same time providing for many of the human services needs that are acute in our district. We're on an economic upswing, but it is somewhat of a stain on our community that we still have the homeless population that we still have people who live in poverty, and so all of those things have to be addressed too. Now, we will, among ourselves, we will quibble and we will tweak and we will change things probably, but overall, I think that this was a very sensible and thoughtful budget, and I'm very, very pleased, and I thank the mayor and his staff. Give a couple buildings, you're happy.
Somebody got some lipstick on your collar, too. On the left one. Councilmember Alexander? It's over. I think it's...
Good afternoon. I want to commend the mayor as well for his collaboration. As the Ward 7 council member, I'm really pleased with a lot of investments that he's made in Ward 7. And let me just highlight just a few. Marvin Gaye Recreation Center, which has gone probably well over 30 years with this little field house looking shack there, and the community.
Well, tell us how you really feel.
The community, is really pleased. I mean, it was fitting for the time it was there. But the community is really pleased, and we're especially pleased because that's the gateway, one of the gateways into the city on the East Capitol Corridor. And we're having major development with the Walmart coming and Capitol Gateway, some more affordable housing along that corridor. So this recreation center will complement all of the great development coming that way. Benning started Recreation Center, the Fort DuPont Ice Arena, which is a great investment for the entire city. There are many teams, there are many hockey teams that utilize that facility in addition to our immediate community in Ward 7. So that's an investment not only for Ward 7, but for the entire city for that. School modernization continues in Ward 7. To name a few, Plummer Elementary, Aton, Houston, and River Terrace Elementary School. And what's important for me in Ward 7, I am an advocate for affordable housing. And we continue with this budget to encourage more affordable housing in Ward 7 for our families. So with this school modernization, it goes hand in hand that we would have more affordable housing and economic development. And the mayor has really been supportive in giving us incentives. A lot of development had not gone on for years in Ward 7, but with incentives and creative financing, we can encourage more development and more developers to come to Ward 7. And we're doing that in terms of retail, in terms of businesses, in terms of housing. We're seeing more cranes in Ward 7 now than we've seen probably in the last 20 years. So we're really excited about that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that. And lastly, as the committee chairman on the Committee on Health, it's really exciting for his investment and for our investment in United Medical Center Hospital. I'm committed to keeping that hospital open, to keeping services East River for so many of our residents where there's so many health disparities. So I'm really excited about a plan, and there is a plan for a new and improved state-of-the-art hospital east of the river. So that's a major investment in this budget that I'm really supportive of, and I look forward to that. As the chairman mentioned, we do have some work to do. I have hearings coming up April 10th with Department of Health, so there will be maybe some adjustments made to the mayor's proposal, but overall, it is a good budget. It was a transparent budget, and it was in collaboration with the council, and that's what makes the difference for the city moving forward. So thank you. And I'm on my way to United Medical Center now. It's Doctors Appreciation Week, and they have a lot of great facilities at United Medical Center, and I want to let you all know, I encourage you to take advantage of some of the state-of-the-art health services, East River. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. That's kind of who I am, actually. Councilmember Alexander mentioned the United Medical Center. What we're proposing to do, and we look forward to working with her and the rest of the council members, we are investing now $12.6 million over the next 2 years in a turnaround plan with Huron. Most of you know that. But we're proposing in this budget to begin the investment to construct a new hospital, a modern hospital. The current one is a 450-bed facility, which couldn't be more inefficient in terms of its energy and its capacity. There's nobody that would build a 450-bed hospital anymore because medical technology has far surpassed that. So as they turn it around, we want to start the process of looking at a new modern hospital on the same grounds with investments from the city, creating a financial plan that would further invest in getting it done. In essence, the model would be for the city to own the hospital, which means it would always be there, and then we have an operator who would operate it because we're not good at running hospitals. We've proven that many, many decades over. So that would be essentially the model that we're looking at that would absolutely ensure there would always be a hospital there as well. Councilmember Bonds?
Thank you. All right. Well, good afternoon. As one of the newest members of the council, this is a great opportunity to try and reflect those things that I constantly hear in community as I move closer to the 23rd of April, and I'll leave that alone. But I want to commend the mayor and his team for really showing a budget that reflects a lot of emphasis on human capital. It also is focused on sustaining the capital services that we need throughout the city, but I wanted to focus on my attention on the human needs, as I call it. And so this $100 million dedicated to affordable housing is very important. I'm hoping that we can come up with a few more dollars that will be dedicated to the local rent supplement program. And I think that it would be needed to really move some of the large families from the shelters into housing quickly, into units that are currently built throughout the city. And so I'm hoping that that can be one of the adjustments my colleagues and I can come up with. But all in all, this is an exciting budget. I've had the opportunity to work with the mayor's staff on this, and I'm thinking that this is a budget that my colleagues and I will embrace wholeheartedly with just a few tweaks here and there. And I want to thank the mayor again for the opportunity to really get into the weeds with the citizens and some of the adjusting some of the needs that we have. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Graham? I'm seeing you in 15 minutes.
I want to say this is a good, strong budget for poor people in the District of Columbia. It isn't the budget that I would have written, or maybe some of you would have written, but it really takes substantial steps in terms of addressing the issues of poverty as it relates to homelessness and training and education and jobs. And, you know, I'm particularly pleased with the work that you've done, Mr. Mayor, on TANF, because there are $27 million of federal carryover funds available this year that would not be available in FY14. And had that money been lost and not recouped by local funds, it would be a disaster for TANF. Your postponement of the TANF cuts scheduled for October the 1st for a year is good news, because again, I think everybody, including those on TANF, want to move from dependency to self-sufficiency. But we need to have an assurance that the programs are in place, that we not only have identified the needs, but that we've identified the programs to respond to the needs. And I think I clearly get that commitment from you, Mr. Mayor, once again. I am pleased also that the mayor has agreed with me that we need to strengthen our substance abuse programs as it relates to homelessness and TANF. This is a core issue. If we don't address drug abuse and alcoholism among these individuals, we're going to continue to reap the sadness and tragedy that comes from those problems. So I appreciate your commitment to me on that score, and I look forward to working with you and your staff. DC General is a necessity, but it's also a tragedy. And we have a commitment from Director Burns, and which you have also agreed to, that we will develop a plan using the new housing money so that we can move people into their own apartments, move people, 7-member families out of 1 or 2 rooms into a quality of life that they can begin to really piece together their lives and their functions. Now, Mr. Mayor, I have expressed to you, and we have discussed, Deputy Mayor Otero and I have discussed the problems relating to shelter for children and young adults. The youth services for homelessness are in a bit of a crisis right at the moment. We have discussed the specifics of those issues, and I know you're aware of it. Deputy Mayor Otero promises me that she'll be back to me very shortly with some solutions to that. But we have very few beds to begin with. What we have has been substantially reduced, I think from 16 to 5, and I'm talking about children. And when I say children. I mean people under the age of 18 that today have been turned away from services and, as best we know, are wandering the streets without a place to call home. This we cannot tolerate. Mr. Mayor, in terms of, and those are some of the major issues relating to human services, in terms of Ward 1, which, of course, I'm very interested in, always. I mean, we've taken care of our library. We've taken care of most of our recreation centers. We have moved in terms of streetscapes. We have built our streetscape on 18th Street. We're doing it right now on U Street. It's almost finished on Sherman Avenue. We have benefited from a lot of improvements. We know that economic development in Ward 1 is spectacular. If you don't believe me, go to Columbia Heights, go to 14th Street, go to U Street. I mean, we have also maintained quality housing for those on extremely low incomes. And so I think we're doing a good job in Ward 1. There are some specific issues I do want to mention, though. Your decision with me on the Land Acquisition Housing Development Opportunities Program, which is this very Victorian name, has immediate and direct benefits to a major apartment building on Columbia Road. That's how it translates into real life, and we appreciate that very much. Your support for the Gala Hispanic Theater tax abatement, which is now funded under this budget, is very important. Your commitment to funding in the amount of $200,000 for the park at Georgia and Irving, the former site of the Bruce Monroe School, is important because that'll enable us to, joining with private money, to provide facilities and programming on the site of the park. So I think this is good news for us. I will close by saying that I hope that the new monies in the Housing Production Trust Fund are focused on people with extremely low incomes. This is where our desperate needs exist. And I think to the extent to which we can do that, within the law and within the structure of the programs, I think we've got to address housing for very poor people in the District of Columbia. Mr. Mayor, I thank you very much.
Councilmember David Grosso. Thank you, sir.
Well, I won't keep you all very long. You know, you've probably heard enough already. I do want to say a couple of congratulations to the mayor. You know, I've worked with him closely on this, and I think that he's taken a lot of my advice, which I really appreciate as well. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. there's still a lot of work to do, but I think this is a good start. One thing that I want to highlight that I don't think anybody's mentioned yet is the reinvestment in the victims assistance funds. The money there is really important. There's, I think, about $7.5 million combined between housing and direct services that is vital, and something we should all be grateful that that's put back in there. The other thing that is really important to me is investment in the arts. You know, the District of Columbia has a robust arts industry, creative arts economy that we have to continue to nurture and work with. And, you know, we, I think, have gotten a long way towards my goals here, and I think we can keep working on it as years go by. We got $250,000 to work on studying the creative arts economy and implementing that and bringing it into the real economy that everyone talks about all the time, and making that one and the same discussion, which is really important. We also have $5 million invested in the Capital Arts Fund, which is something that I think is important because we can begin to continue to have arts infrastructure put into the communities and into the city in a way that I think helps us to evolve into a greater city. The last 2 points I want to make, I just want to thank the mayor for the repeal of we're putting the money in to repeal the out-of-state municipal bonds tax. That's something that I heard every day on the campaign last year, and I think it's really important. It affects a lot of people and something that we need to work on. Speaking of taxes, you know, the Tax Revision Commission is in the middle of working on what their kind of recommendations are going to be and how we can reform our tax system. That's coming out at the end of the year this year. I hope everybody's paying attention. It's something that's very important and something that we all have to agree to. So to that end, I appreciate the mayor didn't go in and try to finagle all the way we do taxes and move it around prior to having those recommendations. I know there's some money to extend their work or complete their work until the end of the year, which is important, and I think we have to make sure that we commit to whatever they recommend, to taking it seriously, and I'm sure that Chairman Evans will do that and make sure that we implement what is smart and really move our city forward in that regard. You know, the last point I want to make is, you know, the sequestration money is something that baffles me on a regular basis. I you know, worked up on the Hill. I've studied this stuff left and right. I'm not sure how we get the calculations right there. So it worries me. It also makes me you know, kind of happy that we're addressing it. I think there's a positive story there, and I think everyone who cares about our budget should look at that money and say, okay, what has the mayor done and what is the council going to do to fill these gaps, if there are gaps and where there are gaps, and how can the community support us in those efforts? Because not every jurisdiction does that. Most states actually will take the federal money that they are losing and use that as an excuse to not provide the services that they really are committed to provide. So in that vein, I'm looking forward to seeing exactly where I think it's a $30 million hit or so that we're going to have, how that broke down in the budget and where we captured that and made sure we filled the gaps to make sure as a city everyone recognizes that we're doing what's best for the people of the District of Columbia on a daily basis. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I look forward to working with the city. Now, I don't have a committee, and some people say that that's a detriment, you know, that I can't actually get anything done in the budget process, but I think everyone will be surprised by how much we dig in and how much we influence what's going to happen in each committee that we're involved in and engaged in and in the whole city. And this mayor's budget, I think, is a good indication of kind of the influence you can have if you care and you study and you work hard on these issues. So thank you all very much. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
He supposedly is new, which he is not, of course. Some of you will remember David, Councilmember Grasso, having been the committee director for the Economic Development Committee when he was in an earlier life. When I first came on the council, that's what he was doing, and he's delightful to work with. I also appreciate his work with us on the arts. We're putting in $5 million a year for in the capital budget for the next 6 years. So it's actually $30 million that we're investing. And he's right. You know, I think it's probably closer to $40 million of federal gaps that we are filling. The biggest of which is the TANF money that's no longer available to us, but the victims services dollars also is another area. So again, rather than just say the money was lost, we did everything we could. Some of these budgets, you got to look at them because they might look flat, but you got to dig down a little bit because what might have been, let's say, take an example, it might have been a $50 million budget, 25-25. If we lost $15 million in that and we filled it with local dollars, It looks the same on its face, but the reality is you got a lot more local dollars being invested in order to preserve those services. So I hope that you all will do that. The last council member, I'm going to be Jack Evans today, and I want to thank him. I had a great conversation with him on the phone yesterday, and again, I want to convey his wish to be here. He wishes he were here, and he immediately set out to develop a statement. So if you all will bear with me, I'd like to read the statement on his behalf. I was pleased to work with the mayor as he developed the fiscal year 2014 budget, which will be the district's 17th consecutive balanced budget. I support many of the mayor's objectives as reflected in this proposal, including restoring funding for the Housing Production Trust Fund, for example. I was pleased to see that many of the issues which I had advocated are funded in the budget. For instance, library funding will be increased so that all of our public libraries will be open on Sundays. The budget includes $8 million towards new hours and an additional $2 million for new books. Repeal of the tax on out-of-state municipal bonds that had been proposed a couple of years ago by the prior chairman. This tax disproportionately impacts our senior citizens and those near retirement. Rather than encourage these residents to move elsewhere, I am hopeful that we can keep them in the district where they will continue to contribute to the civic and cultural life of our city. Funding sufficient to restore Stead Park is another area, and funding to keep the DMV located in Georgetown. And we just opened a new, we just opened the new DMV yesterday over in Ward 5, and we're looking forward to Georgetown being opened by the fall. Back to Jack. I was particularly pleased that funding was included for 2 citywide projects I also advocated for as well, specifically funding of $15 million to rebuild the Fort DuPont Ice Rink in Ward 7, and the addition of $18 million for the renovation of the Southeast Tennis and Learning Center in Ward 8. This is an important time in the financial life of our city, particularly in light of the upcoming transition of our Chief Financial Officer due to Dr. Natwar Gandhi's recent decision to retire. I believe we are still on very sound financial footing, however, as underscored by our recent bond rating upgrade and the mayor's responsible budget proposal. Thank you very much, Councilmember Evans, and to his staff that so ably represented them here today. Thank you, Ruth. So, for the media, we'll open it up to questions that you may have. Councilmember Graham is still here. You're welcome to join with me in this, and of course, I will impose upon my staff as well in the very likely event there will be questions that I can't answer. Matt?
Mayor, I'm just wondering, as you were going through this budget, there's a lot of great programs that you're investing in. Did you think about tax relief at all? A lot of residents are saying this is such a wealthy city. In your mind, before you've been hesitant to talk about tax relief, but are you thinking more about that in the future?
Well, two answers I would give you, Matt. First of all, we did something, in this budget. That was on the land acquisition piece that we mentioned earlier. Mr. Graham alluded to as well, and of course on the municipal bonds, we did that as well. But the rest of it, and I'll go back to what David Grasso said, Councilmember Grasso, and that is that we have a tax revision commission that's been put in place. They are working very hard, being chaired obviously very ably by Mayor Williams, and I don't want to get out in front of them. I'd like to wait for their report, which will be available to us later this year, and then we'll look at what seems to make sense. But one of the things I think is important to point out is that in this budget there are no new taxes and there are no new fees. I tried to make the point in talking with the council earlier that there are ways we can continue to grow revenue. You grow it by increasing your population, by reducing unemployment. That's how we've gotten more individual income taxes in the city. We've gotten more business taxes by more aggressively going out and recruiting, bringing businesses to the city. And then we've gotten more sales taxes. Costco is my favorite example, and that is bringing Costco to the city as we did last November. The first 3 days, as was reported to me, they did $750,000 a day in sales, which brought many, tax dollars into the city. So we can grow tax revenue without having to grow tax rates. Mark?
Nobody doubts your commitment to changing our status.
I'm waiting for the word "but" to come in there somewhere.
But comes. There's always a but. and you even went to the personal action of getting arrested, so I don't doubt your sincerity. But in terms of changing our status on two matters, I don't know if it's in the budget, but where is the money where your mouth is about statehood in terms of funding? Are we still prohibited for advocating for our own rights? Have we decided to challenge that in any way legally? And second, there is a bill, I think it's Vincent Orange.
Second, that's about the seventh
Well,
question embedded in
no,
there.
no, it's only two. The second question is, Vincent Orange has a bill, and you said you're looking at it, so I gave you a week, of actually paying people who were lobbying for statehood, the shadow senators who were elected, statehood senators, I like to call them. You know, when that bill was originally proposed from the Constitution, they were to be paid the same as United States senators, because of the fact that the issue was so important. So in a, what is the budget of the district of locally raised $6 billion, $7 billion, isn't there money to pay for these individuals lobbying for statehood? And what are you doing in terms of actual government money that is legal or questioning the legality of the prohibition to change our status?
Thank you for that keynote question. Well, we cannot spend money on lobbying for the district. And Mark, you've been, so active on these issues, so I'm assuming you know that as well as I do.
Have you considered questioning the legality in court with the Attorney General?
I have not.
Would you?
Yeah, I'll ask the Attorney General what options might be available to us. The second question you asked was around, I think, I'll call them the shadow representatives. I met with all three of them about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we talked then about the possibility of investing some money. Nobody has ever requested money, as you know, in the budget before. What I have done is we have a contingency list of things we say as more money comes in, we would like to add dollars for those priority items, as I call them. I have that on the priority list of $450,000 to start the process of helping them have some resources to be able to work. So we'll see what.
Get no money?
Don't get anything
What would
other than some space in the building if they use.
$450,000 be spent?
It would allow them to be able to bring some staff on board to help them. Alan?
Yesterday, the DOES confirmed to me that they're investigating Loretta Caldwell's company. You named her to your CVE advisory panel last week.
Yeah, let's stay on the budget.
Well, just real fast, are you?
I don't know about it.
Her staying on the panel?
I don't know about it. I don't know. I'd have to find out what the issues are. I don't know anything about it, Alan.
Okay, on the Office of Contracting and Procurement budget, it's going up a sizable amount. I think there are 15 FTEs for procurement reform. Could you just a brief description of what that procurement reform initiative is going to look like? Are these investigators? Are these auditors? I mean, who are these people, and what do you want them to do?
Let me ask the city administrator to come up. I think in the State of the District address, I mentioned procurement reform as one of the issues we wanted to focus on. And frankly, this is a long-standing problem. If we can solve this one, we will have moved the ball in a huge way down the field. And the investments in this budget will start that process, moving it down the field. I think we need more people working in there, and we've got to work to be able to improve the training of the people who work in there. But there also are other things too, Alan, that I want to look at, and that is we have hybrids in this government. We have some agencies that have to go through the Office of Contracting and Procurement, and others that have independent authority or have delegated authority. I think we've got to sort out in a coherent way exactly the kind of authority that we want to give. I have some thoughts on it. I don't want to get out in front of the folks that are working on this, but I have some thoughts on what the relationship should be of OCP to the other operating agencies here in the government.
Okay, the mayor has already mentioned the training. The monies are going to be used for additional staff as well as for training existing staff. And so basically, we're looking to give OCP enough resources to effectuate the kind of reforms. The issues of reforms, the topic is out there right now. We have agencies that have experienced problems with procurement and others that have had success stories, and we're looking to actually benefit from what we've learned in the city, and then also tackle some of the issues that have been recent challenges for us.
Mike?
You're committing $100 million in capital money to rebuild or renovate the Martin Luther King Library. That's a project that two of your predecessors looked at, didn't really pursue in any major way. Do you consider this a legacy project of yours? Is this something that you want to make something that
It was good. It's a legacy, Mike. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think so. I'm a native Washingtonian. I grew up in the city when the Central Library, as it was called, was located in the building over right across from the convention center, in the Carnegie Library. Yeah, and so this library has extraordinary significance. I guess it was designed by Mies van der Rohe, who is one of the foremost architects ever. So it's something we want to preserve. We've worked with Jenny Cooper. We've worked with the Public Library Board of Trustees. They've done a feasibility study, which we now have in hand, which I actually have read the feasibility study. And this would be an effort to not only modernize the library, but generating revenue as well. We don't know yet what the mix of other uses might be on the top of the building, but I think it's a real opportunity to preserve our library. And people have made the case, Jenny Cooper and others have made the case that we're now starting to spend more and more maintenance money on the library, and wouldn't it just make sense to modernize the library, to cut down those costs, and then put those dollars to work in a 21st century library.
what do you say to the folks who are aware of the idea of public building, a public asset, and setting aside a portion of it for private use?
Well, I'd say this is an opportunity for us to create a library that will be contemporized completely. I would say also, as we try to say with everything, work with us. Let's start out hopefully with a commitment to be able to preserve our library in the downtown area, and then there'll be changes, there'll be tweaks, there will be additional ideas. But I think if we can start with a collaborative spirit and a commitment to be able to do, to have our library preserved, I think we can get to the finish line. Mike?
10,000 units preserving or producing of affordable housing. Is $66 million in fiscal year 2013 and $20 million in fiscal year 2014 enough of a down payment to get you to that goal?
Yeah, in fact, this money is non-lapsing, but I don't think there's any way we could spend the $66 million in this fiscal year. We're getting the apparatus up and going. We've got several agencies. We got DHCD, which will play an important role. We got the Department of Housing and Finance agency that will play a role. The Housing Authority will play an important role in this. So I think this is a great down payment. I think you've probably already seen the report that was produced by the task force, some of whose members are actually in here today. A very an outstanding group of thoughtful people, and I'm absolutely certain they will continue to work with us to move this ball down the field. And some of them, even after the announcement in February, when I said we wanted to do this, they've worked with us on this. People like Ed Lazier, people like Bob. Bob has worked with us on this, and others, in the room. And if I missed your name, forgive me. I shouldn't have started that process, but.
Spend so much money in a year. Is 7 years, 2020, too ambitious of a goal?
No, I don't think so. I think we will pick up speed as we go, and the money is non-lapsing. If we were not to make it, the money will still be there to be able to be spent because it's non-lapsing in a Housing Production Trust Fund. Thank you all very much.